Hi, and happy end of December 2020. I'm Rossi Sanchez. As I reflect back on this year, I realized that there was a common thread for us word lovers, and that's that so much of what happened in 2020 began with the letter C. Of course, there was the big C, COVID, very contagious virus, which wreaked havoc all over the world and continues to do so. And it caused chaos and confusion and calamity and closures and cancellations and clashes. And there were also natural disasters, catastrophes. There were corpses and condolences. But 2020 also brought about a collective consciousness on a global scale, the likes of which we may never have seen before and may never see again. Not only around the pandemic, but all around very important issues that were previously owned by select groups, such as racial inequality or women's rights or class disparity and environmental issues. And now those were they bubbled up to the top and they became the domain of many. And suddenly there was community and caring and consolation around these issues, bridging the divide. And that, to me, brings comfort. For me, this year has also brought up quite a few C's, words that begin with C to ponder. The first is commitment. I always struggled with this word. I could never figure out how to spell it. Is it, you spell committed like commitment? Is it 2 M's, 2 T's? It's just crazy for me. And I also always found this word to be very heavy, very just hard to get my arms around. And, it's not because I haven't been committed, because I'm committed to family, I'm committed to work, I've been in committed relationships. So that's not it, but there was something missing for me when I heard this word used in many different ways. And then I took an improv class this year with David at the Groundlings. Had to put in a plug for him because he was awesome. And David's big thing about improv, if you're to be successful, the one thing you need to have is commitment. And when I first heard that, it's like, what is he talking about? What does commitment have to do with improv, or improv with commitment? When he explained it, it made all the sense in the world. In improv, you're obviously improvising on the spot, boom, go. And you're working with a partner. And whatever that partner throws your way, you can't question it, you can't negate it, you just have to run with it. You just take it just like a hot potato, go, boom. And you just add to it and continue on. And all of a sudden it dawned on me that was what was missing from some of my previous creative work. Because I'm naturally a very creative person, and through the years I've had a lot of great ideas. In fact, someone once mentioned that I probably have more ideas during one day than most people have during their whole lifetime. But some of those ideas I even ran with and sprinted with, but quickly lost steam. And I realized it was because I wasn't committed. And this year, though, I am committed wholeheartedly to this new project of mine, the Mindful Evening Hour. And I think part of it is because the kind of work that it entails is basically pretty much all of who I am. Because being a creative, you are what you do. It's an extension of yourself. I am a writer. I do public speaking. I am a photographer. And so this work encompasses all of that, and it's extremely fulfilling for me. I also found that something that I've always wanted to be, but didn't know I was, and now suddenly it seems like I am, is I'm being a connector, which is a beautiful C word that also came up in this year, 2020. And so I've been connecting with beautiful new people, making wonderful new connections, reconnecting with people from my past, and hearing things I never knew of, hearing stories, and just having a wonderful time. It's really, it's being a wild ride, and I'm so glad that with my words, with my experience, my knowledge, and my wisdom, if you will, I'm making some, positive changes in people, some differences, and just a little bit. That to me is very comforting. The second word for 2020 for me this year was compassion. And for a while now, I've been wondering just how empathic or empathetic I was. And I mean, I've always been kind and generous and caring, but empathetic seemed like a really big word, really big shoes to fit into. And it being one of the domains of emotional intelligence, which is something I study, I wanted to know, just, it was like I wanted a sign. Please tell me, am I being empathetic enough? Am I that? As it turns out, according to researchers, empathy has 3 levels. The first level is when you understand something on a cognitive level. So it's cognitive empathy. Yeah, I understand what you're going through. I realize you're suffering. So you understand it on an intellectual level. The second level is the emotional empathy. Yes, I not only understand what you're going through, I actually feel it. I feel what you're going through. However, sometimes that feeling, that emotional empathy is so overwhelming that we have to look away. The third type of empathy is compassion. And that is when you feel it, but you don't look away. You help any way you can. A few weeks ago, about 30 minutes before the start of my mindful evening program, my dog started barking and my mother started yelling for me. So I went out there, figure out what was going on, and there were some people trying to get into the house with a key. So I go out there, find out what's going on. 2 men standing there talking, and I looked down and there was a neighbor lady that I know, and she's splayed out on the floor. So I go down to her, what's going on? And it turns out she was dead drunk. So I try to make sense of what happened. Apparently, she was on a date. She got confused. She thought my apartment was her apartment, and she was trying to open the door. And she fell, and one of the neighbors was telling them, no, she doesn't live here. So long story short, her date and I bring her into my house, and I put her on my couch, cover her, and pray that she doesn't make any noises and I don't get interrupted in my program. After it was all over, my son happened to be visiting, and by then she started to get a little livelier, and we were finally able to take her home. My son dropped her on the bed. We took her home, dropped her on the bed, and she didn't want to be on the bed. She just kept reaching out for me. And then she started crying. And COVID be damned, I just hugged her. And she was wailing. And I just hugged her really tight. And I could really, really, really feel her pain. And I just held her until she stopped crying. I let her know everything was going to be okay. She was beautiful. She was loved. She went to sleep. We left. And as moved as I was so thankful for that experience. Because I realized when I was leaving her apartment, I not once judged her. On the contrary, I was very concerned about her. And I really, really, really connected with her. And I didn't look away. So I was very thankful for knowing what it really means to be compassionate. That's comforting. The third word for me this year, the third C word, is clarity. And every time I heard that word in the past, I always conjured up squeaky clean windows in my head. That's clarity, you can see right through. But now I realize that it means so much more than that. Clarity is knowing with all caps. Not just knowing something in your mind, intellectually, yeah, I get it, I grasp it. But knowing that there is something greater, that you're going to be fine, that you don't know how things are going to happen or when they're going to happen, but they will happen. And you just have this knowing about you that regardless of what's really going on, you know everything's going to be okay. You know you're being guided and you can see things clearly, like through a squeaky clean window. That comes a lot from being self-aware, from being able to distance yourself from your emotions and from being able to connect with other people, realizing what they're going through and seeing things as they are, as opposed to being overwhelmed by them. Sometimes you think that, oh, I'm on my way, this is my path. And suddenly you have to veer, maybe even make a U-turn. And then you realize, in life you're supposed to take the scenic route, not the highway. That's the beauty of it. That's where we learn, that's where we grow, that's where we evolve. It's moment to moment, as opposed to, I want that, boom. It's in the moment where the beauty is, where the growth is, where the fun and the joy and the love is. I don't know if anyone will listen to this video. If you have, thank you. I hope you've gotten something out of it. This has been a year for the books, for sure. It's wreaked havoc on much of the world and destroyed countless lives and livelihoods. And it's going to take us a while to recover from that, of course. But it also brought about community, creativity, connection, caring, comfort. It brought that to the forefront. Hopefully, these C words will be kept alive in our hearts long after the pandemic's gone. So goodbye, 2020. Hello, 2021. Happy New Year, everyone. May you be safe. May you be well. May you be happy.